Is it the $100,000 that's used, or is it somehow increased beyond that? How does that work?
Well, I'm not quite sure what you mean now. If someone deposits $100,000 in any form in a bank, they can use that as the fractional reserve to create additional funds from it. So yes, if someone deposits $100,000 in the bank and gets a CD in return, he will assume when he turns that CD, he'll get the $100,000 back. But the bank may have already loaned that to somebody else, so they will just pay him back out of money they create out of thin air.
So the money, you're saying that money is multiplied based on the deposit. So the $100,000 deposit, then
the bank's
go ahead.
The bank's assets are the loans that it has. I mean, if you deposit $100,000 in the bank, that's not an asset to the bank. That's a liability because they're liable in quotation marks to pay it back. But it's an asset because based upon that asset, they can create additional loans and get additional assets. So it's the giant sort of I guess a reverse Ponzi scheme where the more debt the bank has, the richer it gets.
Now, if I take out $100, what happens? Is there a multiplier effect in that way too? Is that why a withdrawal of cash reverberates largely in a bank or a banking sector? In the banking sector, Dr. Heine?
Yes, I think so. Depositing $100 is not going to raise any eyebrows. But if 100 of your listeners went in there on the same day and each withdrew $100, that probably would raise some eyebrows. That could cause the bank a mild inconvenience in being able to create less money because they have less reserves upon which to base the new creation of money. So imagine nationwide if 100 people went into each bank and demanded cash. Not only did banks probably not have that much cash on hand, I mean, who uses cash nowadays? But they would seriously impair their ability to create new money. So the withdrawal of cash from the bank would be a potent way of signaling that you aren't happy with the system.
So the negative multiplier effect implies that if you put $100 in, the bank can create 1,000. Let's just say based on a 10% reserve requirement, it can make $1,000 in credit. And if you take $100 out, theoretically, the bank has to account for $1,000 in credit. It has to pull back in. It has to withdraw the credit, either demanding payment from the borrowers or extending from some other account the $1,000 that the $100 in cash represents, right? Or that it came from originally.
Yes. If you have enough cash withdrawn, the bank's reserves will fall below what they're required to be, and the bank will have to call in some loans, which of course can cause a multiplier effect also, like the dominoes falling, and the whole system could sort of disintegrate.
Well, you're suggesting, Dr. Heine, author of All Work and No Pay, that the banking system is inherently unstable. Is that true? What other signs would you offer other than this analysis that would suggest that banking and the entire national economy based upon it is unstable?
I think that it's the Chicago Federal Reserve published a book called Modern Money Mechanics. It states that the reason the system works is that it is based on confidence. That you can get 10 times as much stuff for a piece of paper with a 100 on it as opposed to a 10. The system will work. But if people begin to doubt that, if there becomes so much credit in the market, the prices are going up faster than incomes are going up, for example, the whole system can fall apart if the people simply stop borrowing. Because it's by borrowing that the system, it's like a Ponzi scheme, as they say. The more debt the bank holds, the better off it is. Now, if people stop borrowing, the bank's not creating any money. The whole system could fall apart. Now, that doesn't happen if people were using gold or silver as money and the bank was simply a warehouse that kept it safe for you. That wouldn't make much difference whether people were putting money in or taking money out. But with the banking system designed the way it is, I think it was designed ultimately to fail. I can't prove that, of course, but I suspect that the people responsible for it, the people founding the Federal Reserve back in 1913, knew full well that systems based upon fiat money, based upon loaning or debt creation, they always fail.
There's no exception to that assertion. Like all empires fail, all cash money systems fail.
I think so.
All Ponzi schemes collapse.
Yes.
When people realize how it's been operated.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean meantime, those responsible for it are doing very, very well indeed.
Well, it is. We're in the Thanksgiving season. Paul Heine, the author of All Work and No Pay. And again, what is give my listener the name of the website at which you periodically appear, Dr. Heine?
It's called Strike the Root. Strike the root. It's a quotation from Thoreau. Strike the root.
And can we somehow be optimistic here and cheerful and thankful in the coming Thanksgiving season? Is there a way we can be thankful for the fact that the Fed has a target of 2% inflation, and we should say, well, boy, they're not really very demanding about things. They want a target of inflation of 2% inflation, and I think they're below that measure by these measurable barometers in the economy. It's like 1.6 or 1.3% inflation, and they're striving to get more. They're striving to serve the public by having a 2% inflation rate. Can we be thankful for that? Can we say they're so good to have that as a target? They're really trying to spur economic growth, Dr. Heine. Don't we want economic growth? Don't we want growth in the economy, Dr. Heine, at 2%?
Well, we want growth in the economy, but we can't get it by having the value of our money decrease by 2% every year. I was reading just the other day that the majority of households in America are living from paycheck to paycheck. I think 76% of them. And if the ordinary family was suddenly presented with a bill for $1,000, say for some emergency that came up, they'd be hard-pressed to find the money to pay it. So if our economy is booming, as they tell us, it's booming backwards, because even with 2 incomes per family nowadays, people are not having an easy time making ends meet. So if you hear that the Fed's target is 2% inflation rate, that means simply that your money is losing value at the rate of 2% a year. And over a period of time, of course, that amounts to a pretty substantial amount.
I have a quote I wanted to throw at you, Dr. Heine, and to you, my listener, from apparently Thomas Jefferson. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. The issuing power should be taken from the banks and restored to the people to whom it properly belongs. Because the banking sector can make wealth from nothing, we are, I'd say, Dr. Heine, we are sort of their serfs, their servants.
Yes, that's right. That's the whole idea of the system, I think, is to transfer wealth from the people that produce wealth to the people that produce money.
Well, but think, though, what the advantages are of inflation. If you have inflation, Dr. Heine, you have less money in the future. Your buying power is going down. You may have more nominal units of dollars, but you have less power. But there's a disadvantage there. But I think we should be thankful of the advantage that my listener can pay back his debts in debased dollars that buy less. He got them when they were worth more and paying off over time. He has the advantage of the declining buying power of that unit.
Yeah, that's true. You can pay off your debt with debased dollars, but getting those debased dollars means you have to work for them. And unless you're working for them and getting more of them, relatively speaking, than you were getting when you incurred the debt, paying back in debased dollars is not going to necessarily be of any benefit to you. Because, as I say, those don't come falling from heaven. You have to work to get those debased dollars. And probably you're going to get less of them, relatively speaking, in terms of buying power than you got when you took out the loan. So paying off the loan with debased dollars is not necessarily easy when you have to work harder to get the debased dollars. So it's a tricky business, and the whole thing tends to be confusing and easily misunderstood, which is another advantage to the bankers that I don't think we should be particularly thankful for.
This is David Tulis, and we're talking with Paul Heine today on Cash Friday. He writes at the libertarian platform striketheroot.com. That's strike-the-root.com, striketheroot.com, writer, and formerly the secretary, or maybe the head, the president of the society, which was one of my early introductions to you might say, the money problem. Now, Dr. Heine, President Trump yesterday named, anticipating Cash Friday today here in Chattanooga, he named Jerome J. Powell to head the Federal Reserve System when Grandma Yellen's term expires in February. He is a critic of the idea of auditing the Fed. He says, for example, in a paper, actually a speech, an entire speech attacking the idea pushed by former U.S. Representative Ron Paul and others of auditing the Fed. He says that the idea of auditing the Fed is a troubling proposal, and it puts monetary policy under political pressure and new limits on the Fed's ability to respond to future crises, he says, and he opposes unlimited congressional policy audits. He says the Fed is transparent and accountable and subject to extensive oversight. What are we supposed to believe about this man? What do those statements mean?
I think they mean he's a liar. I wouldn't believe anything that the government or anyone working for or hoping to work for the government has to say about the economy. I think it's to their advantage to lie about it. And Mr. Trump may have been sincere when he said the Fed needs to be audited. Obviously, it does need to be audited. But I think Mr. Trump is learning during these first months of his presidency that the president doesn't have much authority to do anything unless the establishment is behind him. And certainly it's almost 100% against him. So I don't think we can expect much change in terms of the operation of the Fed. They're going to keep doing what they've been doing right along, and very skillfully, I must say, while the economies of other countries have tanked, and we've seen inflation go through the roof, like in Zimbabwe, for instance. They've been able to avoid that here. But sooner or later, I think they'll come a cropper with this business, and I don't think Mr. Trump's going to be able to stop it.
Well, isn't the Fed a government agency? Isn't it subject to the Office of Inspector General, like, for example, the FCC or the FTC or the EPA, all of which are audited by inspectors general for the following procedures and the tracking down of wasted spending? Isn't the Fed a government agency just like all the rest, Dr. Heine?
No, the Fed is a private banking cartel. I don't think it comes under the aegis of government control. You'll notice if you get a letter from the Federal Reserve, it's not franked. They pay the postage. No, I don't think the Fed is a government agency at all.
So therefore, we should be discouraged about the new head or encouraged? I mean, the fact that it's a private corporation, is that not free enterprise? Isn't that what we want, free enterprise? Companies rather than government doing business, Dr. Heine?
Well, free enterprise would be good if there were competition. I think I'm not an expert at Bitcoin. In fact, I'm not very little about it. I know very little about it. But Bitcoin, I suppose, is, you might say, competition to the Federal Reserve System. And certainly the Bitcoin people are getting a lot of flack, and Bitcoin is under attack. So free enterprise is great, but it's not free when there's one company that has a virtual monopoly. And, I think competition and money would be great. Federal Reserve notes are declared a legal tender. I say to make things fair, you should remove that. And so Federal Reserve notes were no more legal tender than an IOU issued by you or me or some other entity. But there's no freedom, there's no competition.
This is David Tulis, and we're talking with Paul Heine. Dr. Heine, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it very much.
It's my pleasure, Mr. Tulis.
Dr. Heine is the author of a great book, one of my favorites, All Work and No Pay, and he writes at striketheroot.com, strike the root with hyphens, and we are marking Cash Friday today. Go to your lender, go to your bank, and draw out 100 big ones, 100 smackers. Feel manly, feel strong, put them in your billfold, and spend cash in local economy. David Tulis, Nooga Radio 92.7.
Traffic, news, and information. Nooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.